Welcome to our third episode on Kindle Vella and our interview with Vella author Crystal Crawford. Today we're going to talk about the future of Kindle Vella and what you can look forward to from Crystal's next projects. Let's engage.
Take your seat. The human adventure is just beginning.
Welcome back, Crystal. This is our third episode with you talking about Kindle Vella. And in the first episode, we talked about just what is Kindle Vella and how does it work. In the second episode, we talked about analytics and promotion. How do you actually, get your story out there and start developing an audience for it and keeping them hooked. And today we're going to talk about what's coming. Let's see if we can look into the future and see how your stories are going to develop on Kindle Vella, what you might hope to do outside of Kindle Vella, what you see as the technology and how that technology is developing as things move along. So let's just talk a little bit about what the future holds.
Okay.
Where would you like to start?
Well, that's a big question. So one of the things that I see already happening with Kindle Vella is they're starting to add new features that serial readers, serial audiences usually would expect or look for. So as I mentioned in an earlier segment, I got started writing on Wattpad, so I know that the serial audience usually expects a lot of interactive features. They're looking for, ability to comment on the episodes and ways to interact with the author. So when Vella launched, it didn't have as many of those features. They've started adding those. Like I mentioned before, they added polls. The thing that they've added that I'm very excited about is the commenting feature. So that's something that I had been hoping for since the beginning. And some authors thought they actually would never add it because Amazon tends to be so cautious with how they monitor reviews and things like that. So we were a little concerned that comments would just be more than they wanted to manage, but I have commenting in beta now. So I got approved for the beta, so readers can actually leave comments at the end of every episode of my story, which is really cool. So I'm predicting that as time goes on, Amazon is going to continue to add more interactive features for readers on the stories. I would love to see things like a dashboard for the author themselves, where we had a message board where we could leave announcements directly for readers. Because, there was the one time that I took a hiatus, I had to put it in the author notes and I had to post it on my social media, but not every reader is necessarily going to see that. So I would love to see Amazon continue to build more sort of like a community feel around Vella, but they're definitely moving in that direction with the comments and the polls and the other features they've already added.
Cool. Now we had talked in a previous episode about the idea of you don't really have the ability to advertise on Amazon, that the system just isn't set up for you as an author to do that, although Amazon does promote some of its Kindle Vella authors. Do you see them moving in any direction where that would be something that you could do? It would seem to me to be a natural thing, but they just don't have the technology for it yet.
I think so. I think that they're sort of iterating the platform as time goes on. So I do think that they're going to probably update the way that things are structured so that it will interact with ads. I don't know a time frame for that, but it doesn't make sense really for them not to. So I see that that's probably something that they'll have in the future. And then also, of course, opening to an international audience, because right now you have to be in the US to write or read on Vella. So I've actually had conversations with authors in other places who would love to get in on Kindle Vella and are just like waiting. They have stories ready to go. They're just waiting for whenever Vella opens internationally. And I think it will. Amazon themselves have said as much, that they can't give any specifics, but they're continually hinting that that is in the plans. I just don't have any idea of how long it might take. It's already been 2 years. But they've been working out a lot of just little issues and different things as they've gone. So hopefully it's now to the point where they're getting ready to expand it. I just don't know for sure.
That actually brings up something we've talked about outside of these videos, but it sounds to me like Kindle Vella was developed by a scrappy little team that was trying something in a basement and got Amazon, the main company, to say, oh well, we'll give this a try. But it doesn't feel, in all the things you've been describing, as though this was a major project that Amazon put a lot of investment into and tweaked over years and unveiled this very well thought out, structured thing. It sounds more like here, small team, go try this. Let's see if you can get anywhere with it. Is that your experience?
That's absolutely the vibe that I've had, especially being with it from the beginning. The team leader for the Vella team has actually done some interviews on YouTube with different people, and she talked about Vella as though it really was, a new platform that Amazon's wanting to launch, but slow building. They definitely didn't put in tons and tons of market research and get everything perfect and then launch it. They launched it. They're essentially launching it in like a rolling beta. So when I got in, at first there were no readers. It was just authors reading other author stories. They hadn't made it available to anyone other than those of us who were publishing in it, because they wanted to test it. So those early days were really interesting, because it was the Kindle Vella team who were like there, but we don't know who they are, but we knew they were reading our stories because they said they were. And then there were the authors reading each other's stories. And then when it opened to readers, it was super exciting, because now we have readers, but nobody knew about Vella. So no readers, there was a very slow trickle of readers. So then we had to start driving traffic to it ourselves. So my feeling for this is that initially Amazon approached this very much like an experiment, and they were allowing us to kind of build it, to help them build it. But the bonus pool has consistently grown every month. They're continually adding and upgrading features. So at this point, it's definitely something that Amazon is actively investing in. For the first few months, Amazon wasn't even advertising Vella. Now they're running hundreds of Facebook ads for Vella as a platform, for specific stories that are trending on Vella. So those authors get like the bonus because Amazon is advertising their stories for them. But it's definitely at this point something that Amazon is investing in. But it started very small, is the feel that I get. We joked that it really probably was like a basement or like a janitorial closet that they just cleaned out and were like, here's the Vella team's office. But at this point, the bonus pool is $1 million. So that's not an insignificant investment into a platform. Out of all the money Amazon has, it's probably not huge, but they're definitely investing in the platform and continuing to add features, which for me is a really good sign that they're only going to lean more into building it as time goes on. They're not planning to drop it or back away at this point.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me because I do have a background in computer software development, that sort of thing. And for me, the two sides are what are called waterfall development versus agile development. And waterfall development is the idea that you go and you specify everything. And you basically have an entire project and all the specification documents, and you might have taken a year or 2 years to just develop the concepts. And then when everything is locked together, you move it down into production, and the coder is actually coded, and then it gets released, and that sort of thing. And this is more like what I would think of as agile development, where you basically start with a core thing that is enough to get it out so that people can actually see it and use it, touch it, taste it, feel it, that sort of thing. And then you start, the rest of your development is based on how that works. It's like, oh, well, we, tried this comment feature and it was really crappy, and now we know we need to add this to it to keep people from being trolls or whatever. But you're always engaged in an active set of here's what we're doing this month, and here's the reaction we got, so now we're going to do this. And it can be a very exciting way of developing things, and it can be much more user responsive. So they're figuring out what the user base wants, how the authors are interacting with what they want and trying to make adjustments as they go. So I don't know, for my money, I always go with the scrappy team. I'd rather see that than
and I
a big thing that's very unwieldy.
Well, and I do think so. One thing that's been really great from an author perspective is that the Kindle Vella team, however small they are, where there's at least one person. There's two. We know there's at least two because they've posted in the community forum. So however big the team is, they're very interested in feedback from the authors on the platform. So we have KDP has a community forum just in general, but there's a Vella section of it now. And if there is a concern or a suggestion for improvement, they read and they respond. So it, like, for example, the commenting feature, from the beginning, some of us have been asking for that feature, and I didn't know if they would ever add it, but some of my friends who are higher up on the faves list actually have been directly contacted by the Vella team, and they asked them for their feedback and opinions on certain features, and commenting was one of them. So they're definitely listening to us, and they're taking our feedback, and then they're actually building what we ask them to build. So in terms of a publishing venture, there's not really much more than that I could ask for. That there's a team at Amazon who is hearing our feedback and actually implementing whatever they can of it. So it's a really good situation overall for us as authors, that we actually have advocates specifically for Kindle Vella. The overall customer support for Amazon doesn't really seem to, at first they didn't even seem to know what Vella was. Like, if I contacted support directly, they were confused. But we have a dedicated team. So as long as you're able to reach the team, which we can through the forums, they are listening to feedback, and they are taking in all of our information that we're giving them and the suggestions for improvement. So it's a really interesting experience, because when I first heard that Kindle Vella was launching, I've never been in on the ground floor of something from Amazon before. Like, people who were in KU when it started, Kindle Unlimited, have already kind of been through this process, because it was the same sort of, it built the same way. But for me, it's been new, because I expected it to launch and be launched. And has not been the process. It has been launching in pieces and in layers, and with a lot of slow growth and adding features as we go. So,
well, I hope that method to their madness actually helps it grow and become very successful, which leads to the question of, where do you think this is at for new authors who are just hearing about this today? You've been with it since the beginning, and you've managed to grow with it. Do you think now that it's like there are too many people in it already, or do you think new authors coming into it now are just still kind of getting in on the ground floor, and it has lots of room for growth? What's your feel for it at this point?
I still think there's lots of room for growth. It has not opened outside of the US yet, even. So there's an entire world's worth of readership that we haven't even tapped yet. Now, that does mean we're also going to get competition. More authors are going to join the platform once it opens internationally as well. But I've never viewed other authors as competition, really. So I'm not intimidated by that. My job is still to hook the readers that want to read my story, and to make sure I'm writing a good story. So I'm excited about the expanding readership once they open internationally. I am realistic, so I realize that it's probably going to impact how the bonuses are divided up and all of that. But I know that as long as I am continuing to produce good content, I can continue to bring in readers. So for me, I'm excited for where it's going. And I know that there's a lot of potential even for authors who are coming into it now. There's still a lot of potential.
Well, that brings us actually to a good segue to talk about your story and where you see the future of the things that you're doing. So your main story is Macchiatos, Fairy Princes, and Other Things That Happen at Midnight, Leyward Stones Season 1. So let's just define that concept. It's Season 1. What does that mean? Is there going to be a Season 2? Where are you in this story? Is Season 1 just about wrapping up at this point? Season 2, what does that mean? Is that a year's worth of something? How does all that work? Where do you see that going? What other things are you doing on Kindle Vella? So let's talk about where you're at and where you're going.
Okay, so because Kindle Vella is episodic, we use the term seasons and episodes. So some authors, a season is essentially like the first book, and then they'll either create a new story on Vella and it'll be season 2, or they'll just put all their seasons into one. I've sort of done a hybrid because my Leyward Stones world is essentially 3 sets of trilogies that I have planned. So season 1 is essentially 3 books worth. It's the first trilogy arc, and it stands alone. Once I post season 2, it'll be the same world. There'll be some overlapping characters, but season 2 will be a different story arc. So you could read them independently, or you can flow to the next one if you enjoy the world and you want more of it. So that's how I'm structuring it. So season 2 will be a separate story on Vella. It's going to be called Fate Rising. I already have some of it planned. But season 1 is probably going to be wrapping up March or April, depending on how many episodes, because I plan, but sometimes it takes more story space to actually cover things in my outline. So sometimes I end up with more episodes than what I had anticipated. So I'm really not sure, but March, April, so it's wrapping up soon. I'm still writing the ending of it. And it's already at over 100 episodes because, like I said, it's 3 books worth of content. So I've been posting this same story for almost 2 years now. It'll be 2 years in July. So that's a long time investment for one story, but it'll still be there. So once I move on to season 2, readers could still come in, read the entirety of season 1 if they want to, and then move on to season 2. So
that's quite a work. If I'm doing the math right in my head, and you were talking about like up to 3,000 words per episode, and you've been doing it 100 times, that's like 250, 300,000 words. You've got quite an enormous book there.
I do. And I do plan to publish them as ebooks, because as we talked about in an earlier segment, they allow for that. So when I publish them, it'll be a trilogy. Season 1 will be 3 books when I publish it. And I already, in the season itself on Vella, I already have it kind of earmarked where each of those break, but I called it part 1, part 2, part 3. So as a reader, you can kind of see where, when I publish them, what each book will be. But so my plan is, again, like I said, to do season 2 once I finish this one. And then I probably will take a little break though between season 1 and season 2, because I've been wanting to write a YA mystery. So I'll probably just like give myself a little brain break and write a YA mystery on Vella. And then I'll come back for season 2, which I already am working on and have planned. But the deep world building takes a lot of, it just takes a lot of planning. So while I'm working on that, I'm probably going to write something else.
Now, do you have any other stories outside of this world on Kindle Vella as well? Are you doing any little side projects?
I have one. I don't really advertise it as much because it's just very quirky and strange. But
I love quirky and strange. Let's hear a little bit about it.
It's called Ghost Trouble, and it's like a paranormal romantic comedy. But it actually started as a project I called the Spinner Story. I literally spun the plot of the first half of the story using spinners on my wall filled with random suggestions from my friends. So that's so then I got halfway into the story and I had everything, all the groundwork laid, and I was like, okay, now I'm going to just take over and write the rest of the story. So it was an interesting challenge because as I was going, I was having to sort of figure out how to fit all the random spins into an overarching plot that would actually make sense. So it's the final episode of that is actually posting on March 6th. and it is so by the time this airs, it'll probably already be there. And it's only like 20 something episodes. It's not nearly as long as my other one. And it's a different writing style and just sort of a lighthearted, with an element of danger because there are these ghosts that are trying to stir up trouble. But it's an interesting little like romantic comedy thing that I just kind of wrote for fun. And I had it already partially written when Vella launched, but I hadn't done anything with it. So I decided to finish writing it this year. So I was writing that in between my episodes of the other one. So,
which brings up an interesting idea because you're talking about two different worlds, and how does that work in terms of just branding? Are these like separate channels on Kindle Vella? Does it all come under Crystal Crawford where they go and they see the things you're doing, or would it be like here's the macchiatos world, here's the quirky ghost world? How does that look in presentation to the reader as far as different identities?
well, the only way to link stories together on Vella currently is through an author central page. So if they click on my author name under any of my Vella stories, it takes them to my author central page, and then anything I've published, ebooks, other Vella stories, they can find there. Then I try to link stories that are in related worlds in the way I'm titling them. So like when macchiatos, I put Leyward Stones season 1. So when I do Fate Rising, it'll say Leyward Stones season 2, so that my readers can, and also the cover styles are going to be similar, so my readers can easily see which stories go together. And then if I were to write more stories in the Ghost Trouble world, which I don't think I will, it's kind of a standalone, but I would follow the same pattern for that, a similar cover and titling that signaled that they were seasons in the same world. So
cool. So those that sounds like your near and intermediate futures are pretty well known. Do you see continuing with this for as long as it goes? Is this you're still just excited about developing in this world? We'll see other worlds built by you and in different characters. Are you going to do anything in science fiction as opposed to fantasy? It's like what are your long-term views, if any, at this point?
So I like to write in several different genres, but most of them I keep sort of the consistency that I keep is YA right now. I'm writing primarily for a teen audience. But like I mentioned before, actually my actual readership is, like a large chunk of them are middle-aged women, but I'm writing for a teen audience. And my plans, I've always wanted to write a mystery, so I'm probably gonna, like I said, take a little veer off and start a mystery series that then I'll probably write intermittently with the next season of Leyward Stones, so I can keep them both. I can kind of expand what I'm doing. And then I do have a list of other books. There's a dystopian one that I started that I never did anything with, a YA dystopian. I have sort of like a comedic sci-fi that I was working on at one point. And I have another standalone fantasy that's in a different world. And those are all things that I plan to put on Vella when I get, I'm kind of having to just decide which one I want to work on next, and then figure out the schedule of what I'm going to write and publish when. And then because I'm also wanting to release ebooks after Vella, I see Vella as like, there's no reason in my mind not to do Vella, I guess is what I'm saying. I also have, I don't know if I've mentioned it, but I have a platform that I run with another author. It's called Pirate Cat Publishing. And it's like a subscription-based clean YA fiction platform. And she and I both put all of our content for YA audience into that platform as well. But because of Vella's, the way that their exclusivity works, I can do that as long as it's behind a paywall, which it is. So I have stuff going there, I have stuff going to Vella, and then I can still publish everything as ebook and paperback when I'm done on Vella. So for me, it's like Vella is a great opportunity as part of my business plan as an author.
Excellent. Well, make sure we have a link to the other platform, Pirate Cat Publishing, that we can put in the description of the video for everybody to look at too. So I want to thank you again for being with us here today and going over what the future holds, both for Kindle Vella and for yourself as an author. I want to remind everyone that we have lots of links in the description to stories on DreamForge by Crystal. We have her Kindle Vella links. We will have different things down there so you can take advantage of exploring all of this further for yourself. And if you're an author and you're looking for a place to get some notice and what's happening new out there, Kindle Vella might be the place for you. So watch these videos, see if that's true, and give it a try. We're very excited about working with Crystal and having published some of her stories. And from the first time we saw one come in and published it in DreamForge, we knew that she had the writing style and the engagement to be able to build an audience, make them care about the characters, and really bring readers into her world. So definitely check out her main Kindle Vella story, Macchiatos, Fairy Princes, and other things that happen at midnight. Leyward Stones Season 1, which is going to be wrapping up here in the spring, and look forward to her next publications, including Season 2 and new projects that she hopes to be working on in the future. So thank you for being with us, Crystal. We really appreciate you taking the time to inform our viewers about Kindle Vella and your projects.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Crystal, for sharing your time with us and introducing our audience to Kindle Vella. We wish you all the success in the world with the Leyward Stones and all your stories to come. As for our viewers, if you've watched this far, it's time to click the subscribe button and help our channel grow. Until next time, bye-bye.